Hi everyone, welcome to math. Here we are with our last chapter of the year. So we're going to move into chapter 8. It's a short chapter. There are only 3 lessons in it, and it's actually pretty easy. This is adding and subtracting decimals, and pretty much it all behaves just like everything else you've done with adding and subtracting. The only additional concept to learn is line up your decimals. So I'm going to be repeating that constantly and constantly reminding you as you add and subtract decimals to line up your decimals. I'll show you what that means. So if you would get your textbooks out and turn to chapter 8.1 on page 56, we're going to start with adding decimals and adding decimals to two decimal places. And this is going to start off pretty simple and end pretty simple, and this is going to be an easy way to finish off the year for you guys. All right, so I'm going to switch to my document camera, and we're going to work through the examples here and the guided practice, and then you're going to do the let's practice and have your parents grade it for you, correct it, and then you'll have some workbook pages to do. And that's kind of how, just like we did last chapter, we're going to do the same thing here. So that's the pattern. All right, so let's get to it. Okay, so here we are on page 56, and you're going to see we're going to fly through this pretty fast. So the first one is having 4/10 plus 5/10. And here's what it looks like with our little bar graph thing. Here I have 4 out of 10. Here's 5 out of 10. And so, of course, if you're going to add these together, you're going to get what? How many am I going to cover up here? If you said 9 out of 10, you are correct. And what this looks like, and you'll want to do this when you're doing a lot of this adding and subtracting of decimals, is take this vertical form here, and you'll want to move it to, this horizontal form, horizontal form, and you'll want to move it to vertical and line up the decimals. And this is what I'm talking about right here. You see how my decimals here, right here, are lined up? You always want to do that when you're adding or subtracting decimals. No matter what the numbers are, you want to line it up this way. So this is just straightforward. 4/10 plus 5/10 is 9/10. Very straightforward there. The thing I just want to keep emphasizing is to keep your decimals lined up. If you remember to always line up your decimals, you will get rid of 90% of your mistakes when it comes to adding and subtracting decimals. All right, let's look over on page 57. We're going to talk about regrouping and what that looks like. Okay, here on page 57, we're going to be adding decimals with 1 decimal place and using regrouping. So here we have 0.6 or 6/10 plus 7/10, and I've drawn my graph here with 6 here and 7 here colored in. And what is that going to look like? Well, so we've done some of this before when it came to decimals. So I know that 6 and 7 is 13. So I'm going to have 6 here, 7 here. If I put it here, I need to cover up 13. So there's 10 here. And then I've got 1, 2, 3. And I know that this is 1 whole, and that's 3/10. So it's going to be 6/10 plus 7/10 equals 1 3/10. Okay. So all we did here was I took 10/10 and regrouped it to 1 whole, just like we did before when we were learning decimals. And then I have the 3/10 left over, and we write that as 1.3. Now, if you look at this, I'm going to take this horizontal equation and put it vertical. And you will be instructed to do this, is to write it out vertically so that you can do what? Line up those decimals. Repeat after me. Line up those decimals. Repeat. Good. Say it again. Line up those decimals. Say it again. Good. You're lining up the decimals. Trust me, this is where so many mistakes are made if you don't line up the decimals. All right, so 6 plus 7 is 13. I put down 1, I put down 3, carry my 1, and then I drop my decimal down right there. If you line up the decimal, you will never guess where that decimal goes in the equation, okay? So it's really that simple. That's why we're kind of flying through this. All right. So now let's go ahead and turn over to page 59, and we'll do some with a little bit bigger numbers, and then we'll do some practice work together. Okay, so we're on page 59, and we're going to add bigger numbers. We're going to add 5 4/10 plus 7 8/10. And we're going to look at how we do regrouping, not just with our tenths, but with our ones and what that looks like with decimals. Okay? So, step 1, add the tenths. So if I put my 4/10 and my 8/10 together, you know that that is 12/10. All right? And I also know that if I have more than 10, I need to regroup, right? So I'm going to take my 12/10 and I'm going to move that into my ones here. And we do this, 4 plus 8 is 12. I put down my 2, I carry my 1. So this regrouping is that carrying the 1 over. And so now I've got another 1 here. So now my step 2 is going to be to add my ones together. All right, well, now I've got 5 plus 1 is 6 plus 7, which is 13. Very good. So I'm going to take 10 of these, right? And those get regrouped to my tens place, so I have 1 10, and then I've got 3 ones left over. So here at the end you have 1 10, I have 3 ones, and I have 2 tenths. Over here it looks like adding 1 plus 5 is 6, plus 7 is 13, and my decimal I carry down so that it is in line here. Remember, line up your decimals. That way when you have your answer, it's all nice and in line, and you don't have to guess about where it goes. But this is what this looks like as far as drawing a picture of what we're doing with the numbers. Okay, now if that's confusing, go ahead and play this part of the video over again. Otherwise, look with me down at the bottom of page 59. We're going to look at the guided practice down here. I want to do this 1 and 2 with you because this language part is always the hardest part with Singapore math. And so let's look at this together. Okay, number 1, we're going to regroup. Number 1 has 16 tenths. And how do we write that out? How many ones and how many tenths? Okay, so on your scratch piece of paper, go ahead and write that in. So if we have 16 tenths, we know that there's 10 tenths, that's 1, 1, and then we have 6 tenths left over for the regrouping. So that's what that looks like. And then number 2, we have 3 tenths, and we're going to add 9 tenths. All right, what does this look like? How many tenths is that? If we have 3 tenths plus 9 tenths, that equals 12 tenths. And then if we're going to expand that 12 tenths out, just like we did with the 16 tenths in number 1, how many ones and how many tenths? So if you said 1 once and 2 tenths, that would be correct. Very good. All right, now turn over to page 60, and there are 6 problems there that I want you to work through. Go ahead and do those numbers 3 through 8, And remember on 6, 7, and 8, look at that. It says copy and write in vertical form and then add. So go ahead and do that and line up your decimals. Say that with me. Line up your decimals. Say it again. And again. Line up your decimals. Be careful. There's, look at number 7 in particular. Make sure you don't mess up the decimal on number 7 when you line that up. All right, go ahead, do that on your scratch sheet of paper and then come back to the video. Before we do our guided practice, Luna wanted to say hi. So say hi, Luna. Say hi. All right, let's do our guided practice. All right, so number 3. So we have 4/10 plus 2/10, and this should have been like ridiculously easy for you. That's going to be 6/10. Okay. Number 4. We have 5/10 plus 6/10. So this is going to require some regrouping because 5 plus 6 is bigger than 10. So 5 plus 6 is 11. I put down my 1. I carry my 1. That comes down. We know it's 11, but don't forget that decimal point. Remember, lining up. Everything lined up in its place value. Makes it nice and simple. All right, number 5. We have 3.5 plus 2.9. This is also going to require some regrouping. 5 plus 9 is 14. Put down your 4. Carry your 1. I have 1 plus 3 is 4 plus 2 is 6. And where does my decimal go? Oh, it's right in the line, right there. When it's all nice and neat, so easy, so easy. All right, number 6. Number 6 is in horizontal form. It says copy and write in vertical form. And you're going to be doing this so that you get used to lining up your decimals correctly. So we have 2.3, or 2 3/10, plus 3 5/10. We line that up nice and easy, and then we just add. And because we're lined up nice and easy, our decimal just goes right there, 5.8. All right, number 7, also writing in vertical form. Now this is the one I said to be careful with. We have 5.9 and we're going to add 8. So how many of you put your 8 there? Where's the decimal on 8? We can write this as 8.0, right? So here we have it lined up. You line up your decimal. Your ones are lined up. Your tenths are lined up. The decimal keeps everything nice and orderly and in place. Then it's just really easy to add. You get 13.9. Okay, take a look at that. Make sure that you line up these whole numbers with a decimal. You can write 8. Oh, Luna. Sorry about that. You can write 8 as 8.0. Yes, my cat is very interested in learning about decimals. She really wants to know how to do this. All right, number 8, as y'all pulled yourself off the ground from laughing. All right, 7.6, and we're going to add 4.8. All nice and lined up beautifully. 6 plus 8 is 14. Put down your 4, carry your 1. 1 plus 7 is 8, plus 4 is 12. Where does my decimal go? Right in line. We get 12.4. Okay, with that, we are done with this first lesson, and I want you to go ahead and do the Let's Practice on page 60. Have your parents correct that and then upload it to me. All right, thanks guys.